Welcome to Al Jazeera. A new Palestinian unity government is finally set to be formed after Hamas and Fatah settle some of their differences. Prime Minister Ismail Haniyeh is thought to be currently handing over his resignation, paving the way for a new coalition.
It had been feared the deal thrashed out in Mecca would be derailed by last-minute disputes. But Haniyeh and Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas are meeting now to implement the landmark deal, although some important issues still remain unresolved. Well, let's get the very latest from our correspondent in Gaza. Noor, it looks like this is all going ahead, but there's still some way to go to solve all the disputes.
That's correct. What's happening right now is basically the first constitutional step to implementing the Mecca agreement. Prime Minister Ismail Haniyeh and President Mahmoud Abbas are thought to be right now in a meeting at the presidential compound in Gaza City, and it's thought that the Prime Minister will be handing his cabinet's letter of resignation to the president. He will then be given a letter of designation by the president to head the upcoming government of national unity. Now, this is the first step. Now, Hamas and Fatah have to agree on their nominees for the government of national unity, and they have to see what parliamentary blocs will be willing to participate in this government of national unity. A lot of issues remain unresolved, and Fatah and Hamas have basically agreed to form committees that will discuss each point in of itself and reach a solution on each point of difference separate from the other in order not to derail the process, because as one official put it to me earlier today, neither Fatah nor Hamas can bear the responsibility of derailing this agreement.
And even if that's all sorted out, there's still a big question mark over whether this coalition deal will be acceptable to Israel.
That is correct. A lot of pressure is being applied on President Mahmoud Abbas by Western countries and by Israel. A lot of statements have been declared by the U.S. administration, Russia, the European Union, the Quartet, and the Israeli government. And all these statements will factor in. They do have an influence on the talks between Hamas and Fatah and the rest of the Palestinian factions on how they will form this government of national unity, what kind of declared platform it will carry, and what are the possibilities of this government lifting the current siege imposed on the Palestinian Authority, which is basically one of the main targets of this government of national unity, this expected government of national unity.
And Noor, Mahmoud Abbas put off a televised speech that he was going to deliver to the Palestinians to basically sell them this deal that's been done. Is he still going to do that at some point?
Well, sources at his office said that he has simply postponed his speech. They did not declare to us any set date where he will deliver that speech. But that's probably an indication of the difficulties that we're basically facing Hamas and Fatah in agreeing whether the cabinet will resign before the sticking points are agreed on, before all the unresolved issues are resolved, or whether the first constitutional step will be carried out, and then all of these unresolved issues will hopefully be resolved. It's also an indication of how much outside pressure is factoring in to all of these internal Palestinian affairs. The upcoming summit between President Mahmoud Abbas and the Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Olmert and the U.S. Secretary of State Dr. Condoleezza Rice is also probably on the mind of President Mahmoud Abbas, and it may have had some influence on whether he wanted to hold that speech before the summit or after it.
OK, Noor, thank you very much for that update. Noor O'Day speaking to us live from Gaza there.
US President George Bush has delivered details about America's future policy in Afghanistan. President Bush said 2006 had seen a resurgence of violence in the country.
He said the Taliban and Al-Qaeda were preparing to launch new attacks once winter ends. However, President Bush said America was winning the fight, and he promised to increase support to bolster Afghanistan's own security forces.
We're going to increase the Afghan army. Today it's 32,000. That's not enough to do the job in this vast country. To 70,000 by the end of 2008. It's one thing to get them trained, it's one thing to get them uniforms, but they're also going to have ways to move around their country. So we're going to add commando battalions, a helicopter unit, combat support units. Those are going to help this young democracy have a fully integrated security force that will respond to the commands of the elected officials. Capable troops need intelligence. This is a war that requires good intelligence on all fronts. So the United States and our allies will work with Afghanistan's leaders to improve human intelligence networks, particularly in the areas that are threatened by the Taliban.
Al Jazeera's James Bays is in the Afghan capital, Kabul. He says the extra resources being promised in Afghanistan will fall short of NATO's demands.
I think what the NATO commanders here would like is more than the number that have been suggested. NATO's been asking for more troops for its members for a long time. America temporarily extended the stay of some of its troops, some 3,200 troops, to fill some of that shortfall. What President Bush has done today is announced that those 3,200 will be replaced by another combat brigade. So effectively you have 3,200 extra American troops now joining the NATO effort in Afghanistan. That brings the number of American troops here in Afghanistan, and remember there are lots of troops from other NATO countries as well, to 27,000. Now that's the highest number of American troops in Afghanistan at any time in the past.
It seems to be, James, the inevitable question is, will that number of troops be enough? It's not a question just posed by news programs, but also by the American public themselves.
Yeah, and also the question is, what will the effect of more American troops, the reaction to more American troops be here in Afghanistan? Some people here, I think, will be unhappy about this. Some people already feel that this is a foreign occupation here in Afghanistan. And if you look back in history, Afghanistan is not a country that welcomes foreign militaries in most of history. Just look at the experience of the Soviet Union. And it is interesting, and I'm not sure whether President Bush is aware of this, but today is a national holiday in Afghanistan. It's a national holiday that marks the last Soviet soldier leaving Afghanistan. What's seen here in Afghanistan is a great victory for Afghanistan and a great defeat for the Soviet Union.
James Bays there. Well, border security is seen as a key objective in defeating the Taliban. Many Taliban fighters are thought to be operating from in and around the Afghan refugee camps that dot the Pakistan-Afghanistan border.
Now the Pakistani government says it wants the camps closed down and the refugees sent back. Kamal Haider has been to one of the oldest and largest of the camps near Peshawar in Pakistan's northwest frontier province.
Pakistan is concluding its Afghan refugee registration process. President Musharraf says the refugees must go back to their country and plans to shut down 4 major camps in the northwest frontier province and Balochistan. After 26 years, these people don't know what will become of them.
For many years, we fought against the Russians and sacrificed everything for the protection of Pakistan, and now are being displaced by the same government.
For God's sake, ask the world and United Nations to help us from being dislocated.
People say the registration cards are good for 3 years, so why are they being told to leave now? Many here feel betrayed that they were used as cannon fodder against one superpower and are now victims of another. Jalozai camp is one of the largest Afghan refugee camps in Pakistan. Situated just outside Peshawar, it is home to tens of thousands of Afghans, many of them who fought against the Russians. But they say now that the government of Pakistan is pushing these people out when they sacrifice for the defense of this country. Kamal Haider, Jalozai camp, Peshawar.
US and Iraqi troops have been stepping up a security sweep across the capital, Baghdad. Even so, 2 cars packed with explosives have exploded in a Sunni area, killing at least 7 people.
The attack comes as 2 border posts with Iran have been closed to try to prevent weapons smuggling. Al Jazeera's Iraq correspondent Hoda Abdelhamid reports.
In these early stages of the security crackdown, Iraqi and American forces have been concentrating on 6 areas that are considered hot areas of Baghdad. These areas are mainly in South and West Baghdad. In those areas, Iraqi forces have conducted raids, have done house-to-house search, and have arrested several individuals. They say they have uncovered several weapon caches, and they have found actually 2 car bombs that were ready to be detonated.